Welcome to Bed Crime Stories podcast. I'm your host, T, and if true crime is your jam and like me, you enjoy delving into unsolved cases, trying to figure out who done it, please consider subscribing. Also, if you enjoy my videos, please do me a favor and hit that like button. Hi, my true crime friends. Today, I want to talk about a man who lives in Beech Creek and whose name keeps coming up a lot in discussions about the Summer Wells case, the notorious Fred Hill Jr. Hill has been interviewed twice by YouTuber Ziggy, once on her first trip to Beech Creek, when Hill took her into the holler, and a second time last week when Ziggy was in town for the 1-year anniversary of Summer's disappearance. Note that Fred Hill lives at 167 Ben Hill Road, about a minute's drive away from the Wells property at 110 Ben Hill Road. Hill is, as they say in the holler, kin to the man whose name graces the road on which Summer Wells once lived, Ben Hill Road. Hill is also a convicted felon, Andy Bernard's first cousin, the man who shot Roy Fanning in the throat for allegedly standing in his driveway, and the man who took Ziggy into the holler to show her a burn pile with bones that Hill implied may belong to Summer, even though he had to have known they were animal bones. Fred Hill is, in my opinion, something of a trickster, someone who loves to sprinkle his conversations with some truth and what sounds to me like a lot of tall tales. Along with the infamous Bones incident, Hill also told Ziggy that Rosemary Bly once lived at 110 Ben Hill Road and was part of a prostitution ring. Thus, we need to take anything Hill says with a grain of salt. Ziggy describes Fred Hill as a really nice guy, someone who wouldn't take money for interviews, someone with a very good memory. Hill has either worked his charms on Ziggy, or maybe, just maybe, he really is a nice guy who's had addiction and drug issues that have led to run-ins with the law. Pretty much all human beings are flawed, and everyone's done things that they regret. So maybe we need to cut Fred Hill some slack. During his chats with Ziggy, Hill has made some startling statements about the day Summer disappeared and about Beech Creek. Now, I had major trouble understanding Hill. He has a very heavy southern drawl, and the recording was not as clear as I would have liked. But I stuck with it, and here are some of the things I caught and that I have thoughts about. 1. Fred says he was outside working on cars and moving cars much of the day when Summer went missing. Hill first mentions running into a motorcyclist who broke down and needed to have his bike transported. Hill said he went back to his house to get his trailer to tow the bike for the man. Fred also said he saw nothing down in the holler around the time it's been reported that Summer went missing, say around 6:30 p.m. According to Fred, there was no one around at that time. 2. Hill then mentions a white car sitting straight across the highway near Simpson Loop 3 days before Summer went missing. I thought maybe this white car could belong to Jackie Dobbs, the man who purchased 2 acres next to the Wells and Bernard's property, and who visited Beech Creek the day before Summer disappeared. However, I believe Dobbs was driving a red truck during his visit to his new property, but I did find a photo of Jackie Dobbs' red truck alongside a white car. I also found a photo of Dobbs' red truck next to a darker colored truck. I'm wondering, are any of these vehicles related to the case? Probably not, but it was a thought, and I'm going to leave photos of those vehicles in the video. 3. Fred Hill also tells Ziggy that he saw Andy Bernard in the holler on June 15, 2021 during the day. Note that Jody Sue Brown has been adamant that Andy was at work the entire day and that his workplace has video of Bernard there. Hill, however, is confident that he saw Bernard in the holler that day because he was pulling a car in the road over by his mother's house and he had his truck parked in the road with the door open. Fred says he had to move the truck to let Andy Bernard get by him, and that Andy was driving a small silver car. The way Hill talks about this incident, the many details he shares about it, make it seem like it could have happened. But then again, Fred Hill seems to be a colorful storyteller, and he even admits to Ziggy that he can make up the craziest stories and people will believe him. Now, when Ziggy asked Fred if he was sure he saw Bernard on June 15th instead of a different day, Fred said he was totally confident. And I have to say, Fred Hill does seem to be the eyes and ears of the holler. So if anyone saw certain cars or people entering the holler that day, it would seem likely to be Fred. I mean, I believe I saw either JLR or maybe Jimmy of Dolly Vision driving down Ben Hill Road and spotting Fred Hill puttering around with some cars outside. So just like Allie Harris, who's always outside on her porch or sidewalk, it seems that Fred Hill is always outside puttering with cars. Hill then said he was still out working on his vehicles when he saw a dark-colored truck with out-of-state license plates go into the holler but not leave. He said he later realized that maybe the truck was looking for Andy Bernard's property. Hill also described seeing a girl around 18 or 19 years old with sandy blonde or dirty blonde hair drive into the holler that day. Hill says that the two vehicles later followed Bernard out of the holler around 3 or 3:30 p.m. And Fred Hill says the law knows Bernard was there in the holler on June 15th because he was caught on a camera. So I guess only law enforcement can let us know for sure if that's true. Note that 3 or 3:30 p.m. would have been right around the time Summer got home to 110 Ben Hill Road with her mother and grandmother after their trip to Kingsport. So do these vehicles that Hill describes and Andy Bernard have something to do with Summer's disappearance? Or is Hill trying to implicate his cousin for some reason? If Hill is lying, he's doing a real disservice to Summer's case. The last thing anyone needs is more crazy lies about what went down on June 15th of 2021. For those who have lied in this case, I hope karma bites them in the butt. 4. Hill also says that he thinks Jody Sue might be involved in Summer's disappearance. Hill is really gunning for Bernard and Brown. He goes on to say that you would never see Jody Sue and Andy Bernard down at their mailbox in the past. But after Summer disappeared, the two of them sat at the bottom of their hill for 3 days straight, 24/7, watching, listening, and trying to talk to everyone. Hill tells Ziggy that it made him think that they were trying to cover something up. Hill said they also had their car parked down there, and their kids brought them food during this 3-day period. Hill implies that Brown and Bernard were there trying to hear everything that perhaps law enforcement said. He doesn't mention them being there to watch for Summer. However, Jody Sue Brown on her own YouTube channel has mentioned staying up all night listening and watching for Summer. She made it sound like she was all by herself when she was doing this, and that she was up on the ridge on Bernard's property. So we have two filters here, one version from Jody Sue, and now Fred Hill's version, which seems to be implying that perhaps Jody Sue and Andy are involved somehow in Summer's disappearance. Next, Hill says that early in the morning, on the day after Summer vanished, a wood pile showed up at the end of the Wells driveway. Hill says that the way Don Wells was talking to him the night Summer vanished, it was as if he knew Summer was already deceased. According to Hill, Don then made some joke about the wood pile. Hill said that this made him think that maybe Summer is buried under the wood pile. Hill says something in his gut tells him that maybe she's there at the end of the driveway, right before the green barrel. Now, to me, this story smacks false. burying a child under a wood pile when the wood showed up the morning after Summer disappeared doesn't make sense. Law enforcement was there at this point and had the holler pretty much shut down from what's been said. So how could a wood pile suddenly show up, and how would Summer have been below it undetected when law enforcement brought scent and cadaver dogs there? So I'm thinking maybe Hill has a vivid imagination on this particular story. The chronology just doesn't make sense. I believe law enforcement would have been out there all night on the evening of June 15th and into the early hours of June 16th. Hill then goes on to talk about how on the evening Summer went missing, Don Wells was walking around with his eldest son right by his side the entire time, almost as if the child were glued to him. The boy didn't talk but was silently by Don's side. Don came right up to Fred that night and started talking religion right away. Hill told Ziggy the first time she chatted with him that Don was talking about the resurrection on the night Summer vanished. Fred also told Ziggy that he and Don don't really know each other all that well, and that Don had only come over maybe 10 times total for the entire time that they lived in Beech Creek. I think I've been forgetting to count, so I'm going to jump here to 7. One very distressing story Fred tells Ziggy is about 63-year-old Ricky D. Crawford Sr., a local who Hill says told him that Don Wells came to him and said that Summer was sacrificed to pay for his and Candace's sins. Hill mentions that Crawford said something about organs being sold. Note that Ricky D. Crawford Sr. cannot be asked about Hill's claim because he passed away from a massive heart attack on March 9th of 2022. When Ziggy asked if Ricky Crawford was trustworthy, Hill said he and Crawford knew each other for a very long time and never lied to each other. Hill went on to say that he used to run cocaine for Crawford. He also said that Don Wells and Crawford may have done some drywall painting together, and that's how they knew one another. So to me, parts of this story seem plausible. Like, why would Fred say he ran coke for Crawford if it's not true? It doesn't make him, Fred, look like a law-abiding citizen. It perpetuates the drug user image Hill doesn't so much like of himself. But the story as a whole seems insane. But then again, the stories of some of the people living in this holler, including Fred Hill, are crazy, and they're true. Crawford is conveniently deceased, so we can't ask him. If Fred is making this up, he's, again, one imaginative storyteller. What bothers me is that this story seems similar to the one that was put out recently about the lady claiming to be one of the Wells boys' therapists. That story that I believe has now been debunked. But parts of that story seem similar to this story, at least the bit about Summer being sold. But we have to ask ourselves, would Don Wells, who some say adored his daughter, would he sell her in this manner? Maybe. He has allegedly done drugs. Could they drive him to sell his child for more drugs or to pay off past debts? It's been said he tried to do that with his first son, so I guess it's a possibility. Hill also said that Don had such a thing for cocaine that if anyone even mentioned the word, Don would go out and spend all the money he had on it. Fred also mentions that Hawkins County has done some effed up stuff and that it wouldn't surprise him if Summer just showed back up one day and that Hawkins County would just be trying to show what can happen to kids. Hill talks about his best friend, a man named Jason Arnold, going missing in early December of 2016, and he and Arnold's family trying to report Jason missing to law enforcement, and law enforcement telling them that they couldn't report him missing because they, meaning Ellie, saw him that day. Hill said 2 years later, in 2018, the coroner called Jason's mom and told her that her son was dead. Per Hill, law enforcement said that they saw him on the day he went missing because they put him in a body bag that day. I found an article about Jason Arnold that backs up Hill's story. Here's what the article said. 40-year-old Jason Arnold had last been seen and heard from by his family on December 6, 2016. Arnold was reported missing 3 weeks later. In November of 2017, the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office was notified that a human skull was found in the area of Cherry Lane in Church Hill. The Sheriff's Office, with other local and state agencies, then conducted 3 searches of the area using cadaver canines and grid searches, and skeletal remains were found on top of the ground in one general area near Jason Arnold's home. The remains were sent off for testing, and in November of 2018, the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office was notified that the remains were determined to be Jason Arnold. The cause of death could not be determined. So it sounds like Fred's version of events is true. And it is very suspicious that a skull is found in November of 2017 and then skeletal remains near Arnold's home, but his mother doesn't learn of his death until November of 2018. You'd think the sheriff's office would have told Arnold's family about the remains being found near his home. Also, I'm wondering what type of property Arnold lived on that his skeletal remains were on top of the ground. Does that mean that no one noticed the remains for a year before law enforcement showed up to look? Hill went on to say that Hawkins County didn't like Jason Arnold because of his alleged drug use, and they maybe thought he was a drug kingpin. Okay, well, I'm going to stop here for today, but be on the lookout for another video about Fred Hill's chats with Ziggy. Hill says so much in the conversation, and I don't want to leave anything out. Until the next time on Bed Crime Stories. Now, hey, do me a favor. Smash that like button. Leave me a comment. Subscribe. And you can now leave a thank you in the comments if you want to support my channel.